Let's be real. Some people's entire world just stops for the game. The TV is on, their whole personality changes, and suddenly it's all about stats and scores and rivalries. And then there's you. You couldn't care less, and you've probably spent a good chunk of your life wondering, what's wrong with me? Well, let's get into it, because it's not what you think.
Yeah? Sound familiar? That question, it's not a real question, is it? It's a judgment. It's that little jab that makes you feel like you're on the outside looking in, like you're missing some essential piece of human software. For years, you probably just kind of shrugged it off, but that feeling of being different is totally real.
Okay, so let's get one thing straight right now. Your lack of interest in watching sports is not because you're boring. It's not because you're antisocial. Actually, it's a huge psychological signal that your brain is just wired in a fundamentally different and honestly pretty interesting way. And today, we're going to decode that signal.
At the heart of all this is a concept called value dissonance. It perfectly explains why, when everyone around you is getting this massive high from what's called vicarious success, that feeling of winning just because their team won, your brain is just quiet. It creates this gap, this feeling of disconnection between you and that cheering crowd. So this disconnect leads us straight to the first major psychological profile of the non-spectator. We're going to call this one the self-focused thinker. And no, this isn't about being selfish. It's about the literal biology of how your brain gets its kicks.
So check this out. There's a fundamental split here in how your brain works. A spectator's brain gets a rush of dopamine when their team wins, almost like they were the one who scored the winning goal. It's a cool evolutionary trick, right? That tribal thing. Your brain, though, it just doesn't make that connection to the success of strangers. A millionaire kicking a ball 1,000 miles away doesn't do anything for you.
And that is the absolute key. Your internal reward system demands excitement that is earned, not excitement that is borrowed. You have this deep, almost subconscious refusal to outsource your happiness. For you, the high has to come from something you actually did, something you accomplished.
I mean, just think about your own life. When do you really feel that rush of satisfaction? It's when you crack a tough problem at work, right? Or when you finally finish that project you've been grinding on for weeks. When you master a new skill, or you hit a new personal best in your workout. While everyone else is screaming, "Goal," you're probably thinking, okay, but how does this help me move forward?
All right, so that's one type, but there's a second profile that builds on this, and this one is less about brain chemistry and more about just pure, cold logic. This is the mindset of the honest realist.
The honest realist has gone through something called existential detachment. For you, the magic trick is over. The illusion has shattered. You look at the game, and you don't see a mythic battle between heroes, you see the practical reality, a group of highly paid athletes doing their job.
And this perspective brings you to one simple, incredibly powerful question that pretty much guides your life. What is my return on investment? You just see the world through a practical lens. Your time, your emotional energy, these are your most valuable assets, and you're just not going to invest them for zero personal gain.
This is basically the mental spreadsheet you're running in your head. You look at the emotional investment, the hours of your life you'll never get back, the money for tickets and merch, and you realize that a team's victory doesn't pay your bills. Their trophy doesn't get you a promotion. It's not being cynical, it's just being radically practical about your own reality.
Okay, so we've got the self-focused thinker who's all about earned dopamine, and the honest realist who's all about logic. But what's the thread that ties them both together? What's the core principle driving this whole way of being? Well, it all comes down to where you find your sense of self.
It's a psychological concept called an internal locus of evaluation. I know, it's a fancy term, but what it really means is that you find your value, your validation, your sense of "I'm okay" from the inside. You just don't need to belong to a fan tribe to feel secure or important.
Think about it. So much of the world today runs on external validation. Chasing likes, getting comments, feeling good because your team won. But you're playing a completely different game. Yours is a game of emotional security. You get your validation from your own internal progress. You'd rather be fully present in your own life than watch somebody else's performance. You don't need to shout to feel alive.
Which brings us to the big finale here, and a total reframing of who you are. You see, you're not antisocial. You're not boring. You're just operating from a completely different paradigm. You're not a spectator.
So, the next time someone gives you that look or calls you boring because you don't know who won the big game, just smile, because you get something they don't. You understand the fundamental difference between two ways of being in this world.
And this is it. Right here. They are wired to be a spectator. They watch history being made, they borrow their happiness from others, and they need the tribe to feel validated. But you are wired to be a creator. You're too busy making your own history. You earn your happiness, and what you need, more than anything, is your own progress.
So after all that, I have to ask you directly, which one are you? Does the earned excitement of the self-focused thinker resonate more with you? Or is it the radical practicality of the honest realist?
Seriously, I really want to know which one feels more like you. Are you the self-focused thinker who's got to earn that dopamine? Or are you the honest realist who's driven by pure logic and return on investment? Drop your type in the comments below. Let's see just how many of us are really out there.